The rumble of an animal control truck cut through the morning stillness as two deputies backed a trailer up to Kevin Reyes's goat pens.
Get those filthy animals out of here. This is a residential neighborhood, not a barnyard.
I've got a county fire mitigation contract. These goats are essential for brush clearance. You can't take them.
Sir, the HOA has issued a binding livestock prohibition order. We have no choice but to impound them.
Your little piece of paper doesn't override community standards, Mr. Reyes. The board voted and you lost.
The contract, signed by the county fire marshal himself, stayed tucked into his belt, unread by the deputies. One by one, the Spanish goats, almost 200 of them, were herded up the ramp, their bells clanking in protest.
This can't be happening. They're my whole operation. Without the herd, the fire risk.
You should have kept your smelly animals off our property. Now you've got nothing.
The truck rumbled off toward the county auction yard, leaving Kevin alone in a pasture that had suddenly grown too quiet. 2 weeks before the seizure, Kevin's herd had been the invisible shield between the subdivision and the dry hills.
All right, girls, clear that slope. We've got 1,800 acres to protect.
The contract had been a quiet triumph, a 5-year agreement with the county fire marshal to maintain defensible space using targeted grazing. That same afternoon, Nancy Pritchard drove past the property line and wrinkled her nose.
What is that stench? Livestock? Here, it's clearly against community standards.
Within hours, she had filed a formal complaint with the HOA, citing Section 4.2, no livestock permitted within 500 feet of any residence.
It's not just an eyesore, it's a health hazard. We have children playing in these streets.
The HOA board agreed to send a violation notice, giving Kevin 72 hours to remove the herd.
72 hours? That's impossible. This herd is the only thing keeping this place from burning.
He tucked the notice next to his fire mitigation contract, unaware that the two documents were now on a collision course. 3 days later, Kevin walked into the HOA meeting, his fire mitigation contract clutched in one hand.
Mr. Reyes, this is a formality. Your goats violate Section 4.2, and they must go.
I have a signed county fire mitigation contract. Those goats clear brush that could save this entire neighborhood.
Spare us the scare tactics. The HOA governs this land, not some paper from the fire department.
Nancy, perhaps we should verify this contract's validity before we proceed.
We've already verified the violation. The goats are livestock, period. I move to enforce removal immediately.
But what about the fire risk? If the county approved it.
Second, my motion. All in favor of notifying animal control. Raise your hands.
The vote was 4-1. Tom Green's no was the only dissent.
They just lit the fuse on a bomb they don't see. Without the goats, this hillside is a tinderbox.
The morning after the HOA vote, Kevin stood in his silent pasture, phone pressed to his ear.
Auction? You mean I can't even buy them back before then?
I am sorry, sir. The HOA order requires immediate dispersal. They'll be sold to the highest bidder.
He drove to the county auction yard, hoping to find a loophole before it was too late. But the goats were already penned behind steel fences, numbered yellow tags pasted on their ribs.
That's my whole livelihood behind those bars. 20 years of breeding, gone.
A clerk confirmed 180 head would hit the auction block the next afternoon. No exceptions.
Nothing you can do now, Reyes. The HOA owns the order. You are out of options.
They think they've won a rulebook fight. They've just canceled their own fire insurance.
He walked back to his truck, the empty pasture waiting, and the first dry wind of summer already stirring the hills. 6 rainless weeks later, the chaparral had thickened into a blonde thicket, taller than a man, where the goats had cropped a clean fire break. Now a solid wall of fuel pressed right up against the subdivision's back fences.
This is a violation of state defensible space requirements. You are at 340% of the legal fuel load.
I had a targeted grazing contract to keep this clear, but the HOA confiscated my herd 2 months ago.
Without grazing maintenance, this hillside could ignite from a single spark. Your HOA just created a catastrophic fire hazard.
From above, the subdivision looked like a patch of tinder-dry rooftops, surrounded by an ocean of fuel. The county posted bright red fire danger signs at every entrance.
I am filing an official notice of deficiency. The county will have to step in if no mitigation contractor is found.
They're going to find out the hard way that the only contractor who could do this in time was me.
The fire marshal's warning went unheeded. Nancy Pritchard had already moved on to her next community standards project. Inside the State Farm office, Mrs. Chen pulled up the new wildfire risk overlay for Ridgeline Heights.
Mr. Henderson, I am sorry, but under the revised underwriting standards, your property no longer qualifies for coverage.
The letter stated the reason, in clinical terms, excessive fuel load within 100 feet of the dwelling, exceeding defensible space thresholds by 340%. Within 3 days, nearly identical letters from Allstate and Travelers arrived at 8 out of 10 homes.
It's not just State Farm. Every carrier with a brush exposure in this zip code is pulling out.
Panicked homeowners gathered in cul-de-sacs, comparing cancellation letters like survivors sharing their wounds. A color-coded map pinned to the clubhouse bulletin board showed red uninsurable markers on 81 of the 96 homes.
89%. They did this. They stole my goats, and now they're stealing people's homes.
Without a massive brush clearing operation, this community will be completely uninsurable by the end of the quarter.
The cancellations spread faster than any fire could, and Kevin knew the fuse was already lit. The Ridgeline Heights clubhouse had never been this full. Every folding chair occupied, standing room only along the walls.
Please, everyone. I assure you, the board is taking this very seriously. We'll get through this together.
81 homes, Nancy. State Farm, Allstate, Travelers. They're all pulling out. People are losing their mortgages.
I had no way of knowing that those goats were tied to a county contract. I was enforcing our bylaws.
But Kevin tried to tell us. Now my family could lose everything. My mortgage covenant has a 30-day insurance cure clause.
A man in the front row held up a printout. Property values had already fallen 22% on Zillow.
They're finally doing the math. It cost her nothing to sneer. Now it's costing them everything.
We can levy a special assessment for private brush clearance. Maybe hire a crew with weed whackers. There are options.
But the room wasn't buying her thin promises. Anger rippled through the crowd. A match struck over dry kindling. And in the back row, Kevin Reyes sat silently, his still valid fire mitigation contract folded in his shirt pocket waiting. That night, Kevin scrolled through state codes until a single section stopped him cold. California Government Code 8588.10. The statute allowed the county to hire an emergency contractor and bill whoever caused the hazard.
The HOA created this emergency. They'll pay for the fix. Marshal Gordon, I found a way to force the brush clearance, but I need the county to activate an emergency procurement.
I'll authorize it immediately. If you can supply the goats, we'll bill the HOA directly.
What's the billing time frame? Can it happen before the auction closes?
24 hours. The invoice will be 6 times the original contract, $108,000.
$108,000. That number is going to shatter Nancy's smug little world.
Gordon faxed the authorization before sunrise. The emergency procurement now official. Kevin slid the printed copy next to his original contract and headed for the county auction yard. The auction yard buzzed with buyers, but Kevin ignored everything except pen 7, where his Spanish goats stood on numbered yellow tags.
There they are. Every single one of my girls waiting for someone else to buy them.
The auctioneer started the bidding at $5,000. A meat buyer from Bakersfield countered, then another.
12,000, 14, 16.
The gavel cracked at 18,000. Kevin Reyes had just bought back his own herd.
18 grand out of the emergency fund. Worth every penny to see Nancy's face when the real bill arrives.
By afternoon, the goats were loaded into a rented stock trailer, their bells clanking again in the familiar rhythm.
They remember the ranch 2 months of confusion, and they're finally heading home.
As dusk fell, the trailer rolled onto the familiar dirt road. The empty pasture was empty, no longer.
Welcome home, girls. Now let's go remind the HOA who really holds the contract.
Next morning, Kevin arrived at the county fire marshal's office.
The procurement paperwork is complete. This invoice is 6 times the original contract value.
$108,000. I'll deliver it myself.
Gordon handed over the certified invoice, stamped with the county seal and the emergency code.
This piece of paper is heavier than any bale of hay, and Nancy is about to choke on it.
Kevin placed the invoice next to his original contract. The 2 documents now a matched set. The county clerk entered the invoice into the system, billing the Ridgeline Heights HOA directly.
They'll call it a mistake. They'll say I tricked them, but the law says they caused this.
He drove toward the HOA clubhouse, the invoice on the passenger seat, the sun climbing over the dry hills. The HOA board had no idea the bill was already on its way. The clubhouse fell silent as Kevin walked to the front, a thick envelope in his hand. He slid the certified invoice onto the board table. The county seal glinted under the fluorescent lights.
What is this supposed to be, Mr. Reyes? Another one of your little fantasies.
Emergency procurement invoice, Nancy. $108,000. The county billed your HOA for the brush you let explode.
This is fake. You fabricated this to get back at me.
Government Code 8588.10. When a private party creates a fire hazard requiring emergency mitigation, the county can recover costs from that party at 6 times the normal rate.
Kevin, is this real? The county actually sent this?
Call Marshal Gordon yourself. He signed it this morning. The HOA created this emergency, and now the HOA pays.
Nancy, if this code is real, this board just bankrupted the community twice.
Nancy's face went white. Tom Green pulled out his phone, already dialing the fire marshal's office. Tom Green put down his phone, his face pale. The fire marshal confirmed every word. The bill is valid.
This is a setup. Kevin orchestrated this to make us pay for his own herd.
Nancy, you ignored his contract. You ignored the fire marshal. And now you've cost us everything. I move for a recall election.
Recall me? I've protected this community from chaos. You can't just...
My mortgage default is in 30 days. You did that, Nancy. I'll sign the petition right now.
A rumpled clipboard appeared, passed from hand to hand along the rows of folding chairs.
She built this gallows herself. All I did was hand her the nails.
By the time the meeting adjourned, 73 signatures filled the page, more than enough to force a vote.
The recall election will be in 3 weeks. Until then, this board will take no action on the invoice, except to find a way to pay it.
Kevin walked out into the night air, the contract still in his belt. The recall petition now an unstoppable force. The recall hearing notice was posted on the clubhouse door the next morning. 3 weeks, 1 vote, to decide Nancy Pritchard's fate.
Marshal Gordon, will you testify at the recall meeting? They need to hear it from someone with a badge.
I'll be there. The code is clear. The HOA created the hazard. Your goats were the only thing holding back a firestorm.
On the night of the hearing, the clubhouse was packed again. Kevin sat with a folder holding the contract, the cancellation letters, and the emergency code.
I have here the signed fire mitigation contract, dated 18 months ago. Here are the 81 cancellation letters from 3 insurers. Here is Government Code 8588.10.
Kevin called Fire Marshal Gordon to speak. The room fell silent as the county official confirmed every detail by phone, his voice crackling through the speaker.
Yes, the emergency procurement was authorized under my signature. The bill to the HOA is binding.
This is a witch hunt. My attorney will have this entire meeting declared invalid.
Your objections are noted, Nancy, but the petition is valid. The recall election will go forward.
The election was set for the first Tuesday of the next month. Nancy stormed out, but the damage was done. Kevin's evidence had turned the tide irreversibly. Nancy hired a top lawyer to threaten Tom and Maria with defamation suits if they didn't stop speaking.
She cannot silence the truth with legal threats. I am speaking at every meeting.
My mortgage is in default because of her. I will not be bullied into silence.
Then she hired a PR firm. They flooded social media with posts calling Kevin a disgruntled vegan activist. The posts claimed he hated the HOA's lawn care standards and wanted to destroy property values.
I have a letter here. Nancy's attorney sent it to Mr. Green. Listen, cease and desist from any further public statements regarding Miss Pritchard. They want to shut us up.
The crowd booed. Someone shouted, "No more Nancy," and the chant spread like fire. The smear campaign backfired. The recall petition added 40 new names that night.
3 days. Vote. This is about who decides truth in this community.
Kevin spent the final days walking every street, a recall sign in one hand, the contract in his belt.
I am not asking you to like me. I am asking you to protect your homes.
At one house, a man slammed the door. At the next, a woman pressed a thank you note into his palm. Election morning. The clubhouse polling station opened at 7. By noon, the line stretched out the door.
This is about accountability. Nancy Pritchard cost us our insurance, our values, our peace.
Kevin cast his ballot and stood outside, watching neighbors file in, one after another. The votes were counted at 8 p.m. The recall passed by a landslide, 67% to 33. Nancy Pritchard's reign over Ridgeline Heights was over. She cleared her desk without a word. Tom Green was sworn in as interim president that night. His first call was to Kevin Reyes. The invoice still sat unpaid, but the community had spoken. Change was no longer a distant hope. 3 nights later, the new board held its first official meeting. The agenda had one item: grazing rights.
The community voted for accountability. I propose that we grant Kevin Reyes permanent grazing rights through all HOA common areas.
He's already proven his goats saved us once. This should have been approved years ago.
The vote was called. Every hand went up, including 2 new board members Kevin didn't know.
Motion carries. Kevin, come sign the resolution.
Kevin walked to the table and signed his name. For the first time in months, the contract in his belt didn't feel like a burden.
This herd is more than livestock. They're the only reason this community still has a chance.
Tom Green added his signature, then passed the pen around. The resolution was unanimous and permanent.
Welcome back, Kevin. Now let's get those goats out on the hills before the next dry spell.
Kevin walked out of the clubhouse, the signed resolution in his hand. The goat's bells were about to ring again. At dawn, Kevin opened the gate, and his herd poured onto the HOA common land like a living brown river.
Eat up, girls. We've got months of fuel to chew through.
Within 4 days, the hillside was cropped to stubble. The firebreak reappeared like a scar healing in reverse. Fire Marshal Gordon walked the perimeter the following Friday, a checklist in hand.
Defensible space is compliant. I am notifying the insurers immediately.
By Monday, Mrs. Chen received a bulk notification from the carriers.
State Farm, Allstate, Travelers, all reinstating coverage. The goats did it.
The Ridgeline Heights HOA board sent a group text. Insurance restored. Property values up 12%.
They called my herd a stink. Now they're the only reason this place still breathes.
And the $108,000 invoice. That fight was already over. The goats had won. The first Tuesday after the resolution, Nancy opened her curtains to find 30 goats munching her prize rose bushes.
No, not my garden. Get out! Animal control. It's Nancy Pritchard. There's a herd destroying my lawn.
Ma'am, the goats are authorized by the HOA board. I have no authority to remove them.
But they're eating my azaleas. This is vandalism.
I understand your frustration, but legally they're performing fire prevention. There's nothing I can do.
Nancy slammed the phone down and watched helplessly as a doe-eyed goat stripped petals from her favorite rose.
This is his revenge. A weekly punishment I can't escape.
From the hill, Kevin leaned on his crook and smiled. The goats wandered Nancy's lawn every Tuesday now, and there was nothing she could do. The fuchsia blazer stayed in the closet. Nancy Pritchard had finally met a rule she couldn't override. Within days, a bright yellow sign appeared at the edge of Nancy's lawn. Goat grazing zone, Tuesdays, 9 a.m.
The board voted to make it official. The goats are part of this community now.
Who would have thought she'd get her own goat zone?
The herd clanked down the street, goats munching on weeds along the curb as children giggled. A girl held out a cracker, and Nancy's lawn became the designated grazing start point every Tuesday.
The smell of roses is gone, but the air smells like safety now.
Every evening, Kevin walked his crook along the ridge, watching his herd graze against the sunset. The HOA office framed his original fire mitigation contract, the very paper Nancy had dismissed, and Nancy's fuchsia blazer stayed in the closet, a relic of a past no one in Ridgeline Heights missed. Kevin's herd had saved the community. Every Tuesday was a small, bleeding reminder. Kevin walked to the north edge of his property, where his grandfather had once staked the original fence line.
He would have laughed. The goats they called a nuisance became the only thing standing between this valley and ash.
The herd moved around him, bells clanking softly, their heads down in the dry grass.
Nancy sees them as a weekly torment. My neighbors see them as a shield. I see my grandfather's stubbornness.
He tapped the renewed contract in his belt, the paper now worn but still carrying the county seal. Below the ridge, the houses of Ridgeline Heights glowed with warm light, their windows like candles in the dusk.
Justice wears a rough coat and eats roses. It took a herd of goats to teach a Karen what a contract really means.
He leaned on his crook and watched until the last sliver of sun disappeared behind the hills. The bells grew quieter as the goats settled in for the night, and the first stars appeared. Kevin Reyes had won back more than his herd. He had won a community and a quiet Tuesday tradition that no rule could touch. Across the neighborhood, Nancy Pritchard stood at her window, the morning light catching the edge of her pearl necklace. The goats were already there, 6 of them chewing the last of her hedges. She did not reach for the phone. She did not call animal control. She just watched.
They took everything else. Why not a few more leaves?
Behind her, the closet door was slightly open, the fuchsia blazer untouched. She had not worn it since the recall. It felt like another person's clothes. The goat bell clanked as the herd moved on, leaving a trail of bare stems. Nancy turned from the window. The silence in the room was deeper than any shouting.
Maybe they're right. Maybe I did this to myself.
Outside, the yellow sign fluttered in the breeze, and the Tuesday ritual continued without her. The herd moved as one, a wave of brown backs rippling across the hillside, each mouthful of brush, a small act of defiance against the next fire. Kevin no longer watched them from the ridge alone. Families on evening walks waved up at him, and he tipped his hat. The framed contract in the clubhouse had become a local joke and a point of pride, proof that the right piece of paper could beat a whole boardroom of wrong opinions. His boots were still worn, his flannel still faded, but Kevin Reyes walked a little lighter. The crook in his hand felt like a gavel now. The Tuesday visits to Nancy's yard continued, silent and inevitable, a clockwork of justice that no lawyer could pause. The brush never grew taller than a boot again. The fire marshal's reports came back clean, season after season. Kevin still talked to his grandfather, some evenings, a habit born of silence and old memory. The herd's bells were the soundtrack of Ridgeline Heights now, a daily reminder that survival smells like hay and stubbornness. And every Tuesday, when the goats left their calling card on Nancy's lawn, Kevin allowed himself a small, satisfied nod, because sometimes justice doesn't wear a black robe. It wears a red flannel, carries a crook, and bleats.